Into the Nexus is a production of amove.tv. Bookmark amove TV for other great video games and esports podcasts. Into the Nexus is sponsored by listeners like you via patreon.com/ITN. Greetings and welcome back, everyone, to Into the Nexus. I'm Garrett Weinzierl, joined as always by Kyle Fergusson, coming at you significantly earlier than usual, but that's because, Kyle, I am about to start my summer vacation, which means I'm just aloof and ready to leave today.
Sure. Well, thank you for squeezing us in.
I'm kidding. I'm so stoked that we got to get this in before I did leave. But it, it's a little bit like that senioritis feeling, which when you're our age, sure, Kyle, I feel like you try and find reasons to have that feeling because they don't come that often anymore because it's just the grind of life.
Yeah, and I remember the first maybe 4 years after college, every summer around like May, June, I'd be like, aren't I supposed to get a reward or something? Like, isn't someone supposed to tell me my family should all gather, celebrate that I completed another year of something, even if it was retail, stocking jobs at Old Navy, still, I should get some sort of paper saying I did good job.
Yeah. Or like, I don't know, crippling anxiety if that piece of paper isn't going to tell you did a good job. Or you're worried about at least one of the lines on that paper saying you didn't do a good job, which was typically the case with me in math.
I would like to imagine that we're doing this show early because opinions have been made about the movement speed buff, and they're not going to take it away. This is the new reality. We will not wake up tomorrow and have everything be different and then remove the movement speed buff. We are here to report on our findings over the weekend.
And we win either way, because if we do wake up tomorrow morning and it is gone, everyone listening gets to have a raucous laugh and tweet memes at us.
There we go.
It's going to be memes either way.
It's like perfect crime.
It's like this Area 51 stuff going around, which I am all about, by the way. I usually am like over whatever wave of memeage is taking over the entire internet at the same time. But these Area 51 memes, I got to say, dude, they're killing me.
Yeah. I mean, it's the play on words, they can't stop us all, that is getting warped for other purposes. That is just a good darn laugh.
Yep, it's good. Yeah, and they can't stop us all in Heroes of the Storm because we're running 10% faster.
Exactly, same thing. We're anime running everywhere we go.
We are Naruto runners. Oh man, dude. Yeah, it's been good. So you're right. We're gonna talk about all that. So let's just hit the bumper.
We're on, boys! Ha-ha! Let's liven up this place!
Put me to the stage.
Stay a while and listen.
Oh, all right. Oh my God. It just hit me. This is what I want. I want somebody listening to this show right now to grab that bumper. Grab that bumper. This is what I want to return to when I get back from my break. I want that bumper after he yells, "Run, boys," a really crappily inserted 10% faster.
Nice.
Add that in there and you will make my return to podcasting. Yeah, so the movement speed has been here. We've had it for just shy of a week. I had some strong opinions. We both had some strong opinions. We just had strong differing opinions last week. Has your thoughts changed at all, Kyle?
No. I do have one hole in my argument. That's stealthies. Stealthies are driving me nuts. And they all seem to have increased movement speed percents while stealthed. And in particular, comboing that with us giving them unrevealable status has driven me a little insane this past week.
Okay. Well, I guess it's a good thing that Zeratul got another little ding along with that patch, but I haven't experienced the same frustrations outside of like quick match Valeras. They are very hard to kill. I can confirm that, but I haven't been seeing it in the draft environment.
I mean, most of my complaints are about Permanent Cloak Nova and that she has the ability to go unrevealable for a time and make that getaway that much faster, 20% faster here. And that is her level 1 advanced cloaking after being stealth for 2 seconds, gain 10% movement speed. Even so, at 10%, it's just booking it.
That's a little obnoxious, for sure. So what has what's been the outcome? You know, if we're looking at stats websites, who has seemed to gained the most from that movement speed buff?
It's been a bit interesting. First of all, because it's not everyone you would expect. And the people that are down, much like if you hear bad news about a neighbor, you're going to go, oh, yeah, they were a little weird. Oh, weren't they? Oh, they owned Pomeranians. Like, no, someone can own Pomeranians and it doesn't matter. But the second they are on the news, you're like, yeah, that was pretty freaking weird. They had 3 Pomeranians. So
I feel a little targeted here as the owner of 3 Chihuahuas.
7 cats, like 2 cats. It doesn't matter. Like one person owns 1 cat and you're like, oh, what a recluse. Of course they were a murderer. Like, no, you make these connections in your mind. So that's what we're dealing with right now. So at the very top of the losers list this week, people who are suffering the most is Leoric. And in our brains, it's very easy for me to be like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. You attach a Drain Hope. What do? They walk out of it while you're moving percent base slower. You have a rather small arc area effect in front of you. It's not a Stitches. It doesn't really matter if it hits close or far. It just is an arc, and it probably misses. He's down about 5%, now at 47% win rate, and that's a pretty big fall from what would have been a 52. We were regarding him pretty well in the past.
Yeah, I just found that strange because at the end of the day, it should be, it's relative. Right, like yes, it is a percentage. Well, yeah, I guess so. It's slightly higher. I don't know. I didn't come prepared with the math, so yeah, I'm not going to fight that. I had a couple rough games against Leorics this week.
It's all perspective, right?
Yeah.
And just like my Nova, people are probably like, "What the heck's he talking about?" You know, why that covert ops?
Whoa, what the?
It is when you use your Uther stun to try to grab her, and it upsets you a little bit. These things change based on your own personal experience.
I'm sorry, I just want to scream at Skype because it's closed and yet I'm still getting calls and it's making the recording.
Oh,
hello
Skype.
Where is this thing hiding? I am in my. It's not even in my processes, Kyle. I can't force quit it because it's not there.
What?
Then oh my God, Windows, your updates have been the pits.
Wow.
The pit. Yeah, it's just not in here, but I just got a phone call.
Huh. Wait, do you have Google open? Is it a Google call by chance?
No, it was definitely Skype. You can't hear it, but everyone else heard it. It was the Skype ringtone. Yeah, so if that happens again, I am sorry, everybody, but Microsoft has been screwing the pooch with their recent updates.
We're on Zoom.
We are on Zoom. I'm not even on Skype. I closed Skype on purpose before every podcast because of that. But here we are. Soapbox over, Kyle.
You move 20% slower with Drain Hope. The arc is small, but you do deal a 40% slow. However, it seems like Leoric's slow-mo lunch is being eaten by Blaze at the moment. And Blaze is looking really solid because he brings to the table a 50% slow with his oil. And that is pretty hefty with everybody expecting themselves to motor around a little faster.
Yeah. It's been a problem for me, which is weird because I've seen a lot of people complaining about Blaze. But I've been ending up in those oils going, oh, this feels really bad now.
Yeah. Slows feel slow, but the 10% and the 20% you don't notice so much.
I mean, you didn't notice them before. You don't notice them now. It's fine.
As for the other losers of the week, some of these are less mysterious, like Deckard. People are running out of his roots, and he is down this week by about 4%. And that makes sense. People escape from your roots. Your roots are your main utility you bring to the game. Yeah, you might throw a potion that someone can go grab faster, but that was never the issue. That's not what you brought to the table.
Yeah. Which is odd because we saw him spike just a little bit at the launch of the patch last week. But yeah, that fell off for sure.
and these are still preliminary data, since last week. Kel'Thuzad is down 1.8%. It's not horrible, but he is being affected by it. Zagara, someone we predicted was going to have issues due to her minion speed, her Hydralisk, she's down 3%. Nubarak is down 3% as well, but he also received yet another nerf to his shielding cooldown, which is every time they do this, every time they go in there and even change his health by 10, people mess up their dives because a dive is a very small window of activity and you will explode if you're not as lively as you thought you were.
And they're outpacing their beetles.
That's true. That's true.
There's just a lot of weirdness for sure. I don't understand Brightwing taking a dip.
Brightwing is interesting, and we can only assume that the rotations by a non-global character are soaking just as much, and her being global isn't as valuable as it once was.
So for me, I think the obvious thing to point at is Arcane Flare. It's going to be a little harder to land it now. But yeah, beyond that, still should be fine. She's got a point-and-click polymorph, a point-and-click shield. Well, spell shield. That gives movement speed. Overall, I think she should be go. I mean, she hasn't dropped off, so I guess maybe I'm overselling this, but she wasn't one that jumped to the forefront of my mind as a hero that was going to be negatively impacted by these changes.
And it might not be that Brightwing's kit is really at fault here, but the culmination of her abilities that makes her diveable. And that's what we're really seeing with Alexstrasza. It doesn't really have anything to do with her abilities being outrange, people moving too fast or slow's not good enough. Merely that if Alexstrasza throws down a circle and says, whole team gather here, everyone, that Nazebo, that Gul'dan, everybody gets to go, oh, you mean there? And close in and get the business done. I have been diving around Alexstrasza's all week because they're slow. It's kind of the Arthas problem. She has to stop her momentum to cast many of her spells. And when you call where you want people to be, the positioning is going to be bad.
Yeah. And the one upside is you can, I guess, leave the area of the heal quicker than you could before, but the timing of the heal is what's important. It hasn't changed, and everyone can close in at a quicker pace at the beginning of that area being called.
Correct.
So, yeah, that doesn't surprise me. But again, all of these things are relatively small downward movements, with maybe the exception of the Orc and a Nubarak being kind of larger movements, and again a noob having that nerf alongside him. Let's talk about who's seeing kind of a boost from this though, because one of the heroes that has moved up post this change is one of the heroes that we both spent time lamenting last week, and that's Kael'thas. Kael'thas has actually moved up as a result of these changes, and that's because of one glaring omission from our discussion last week. Kyle, do you know what it was? Gravity lapse.
What about it?
It is even more important to hold people still when they can move faster. Now, it's harder to hit that gravity lapse, but in the grand scheme of skill shots, gravity lapse is a pretty fat skill shot.
That's very true. I didn't really think about it. I mean, anytime you end up in one of these comps where your tanks or your supports have underbrought CC, Kael'thas is an awesome option. There is a world where Butcher is absolutely allowed, and it's when you need an assassin and CC. Butcher's going to fulfill that with a little bit more reliability than Kerrigan. Kerrigan being something really particular that most people, the general populace, can't just bring out. But Butcher, you can right click, you can get it done. You know the general ins and out of engaging. It never changes. I think that's why Uther, once you know him, he doesn't really ever leave your wheelhouse. He's the bicycle.
Dude, I am a bit perplexed by Kerrigan right now, because you and I played some games last week, and I played a couple of them on Kerrigan, and we destroyed.
Sure.
Absolutely crushed. And I don't know how much of that is that Kerrigan's still fine, that because of her dive ability that you can just get right on top of the target, and even though they're moving faster, you can still fairly reliably land your combo. And again, because I think I mentioned this last week, the fact that her primal grasp starts at the furthest point and then then closes, as opposed to having to leave her center at a set speed to go to its whatever. It's not a skill shot. It's a different type of ability. I think that plays a role as well. However, what I think might be skewing my success on Kerrigan, Kyle, is the return of players. I think they're just, there might be some folks who haven't played Heroes in a while that are very excited about these changes that are coming back to the game, and I am capitalizing on any and all mistakes that they are making with Kerrigan.
We could also say Maelstrom moving 10% faster. That could honestly just be a level 20 with nothing else on it.
I still think it's worth it to go Ultralisk. I know it is moving slower relatively, but just having that stun at the beginning of the Ultralisk is still so very worth it.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I didn't think so. I'm eating crow, dude. I'm eating crow. I still like Ultralisk.
I do think there is quite a bit of living bombs being spread around when they shouldn't be, because people are saying, oh, run away from me. I'm 10% faster, closer to you. And just our perspective of that area is off. I wonder if Kael'thas would have his moments in the sun as often if it wasn't for his level 7 ability to increase the area explosion, because that can throw people for a loop if they're not prepared for that tiny change and how much that spread can happen.
Oh, totally. And I could see, just kind of clunk in our ability to spread correctly, because maybe it might just be in the back of your mind that, I'm moving 10% faster. I can move backwards first before moving upwards, and it just carries you a little further than you expect, and maybe a spread. I don't know. It's really hard to put your finger on any of that. But I really do think that just holding people still it was already really strong. We've been talking for months about how it's like a root stun meta, right? Like, it's just so important. And if you get held still, bad things are going to happen to you. And that's all the more true. It is now 10% more true than it was before, because it's 10% harder to hit a lot of abilities. So if you can hold someone still, whether it's through a stun, through a root, through a significant slow, it's more important than it was before. So yeah, you might miss more gravity lapses than you did before, but the ones that you hit are going to feel more impactful than they did before.
Absolutely true. I think Probius is a switch around of that philosophy, in that we assumed his warp rifts will be walked out of. And with the setup time, people had time to clear them. They wouldn't stand in photon cannon range as often. They dive Probius directly. However, Worker Rush on a 30-second cooldown provides 60% movement speed, and Probius is able to double soak and really get the heck out. And he is a terror, and probably eating these Falstad who's down lunch, just as Zool is now in our top win rates as well, because he can double soak again.
Yeah, he can. Dude, Asmodan has been killing me. Like, I've had so much trouble with Asmodan. He's just driving me up a wall right now. And I don't know. If you ask me why, I can't tell you. I just know that I'm really struggling with teams that get an Asmodan right now.
I can tell you from my own games that a lot of my friends are back. They are super into this game. They're playing it by themselves. This is no longer a party game to them. They're just nonstop chaining heroes. They'll burn out. It's fine. I'll still be here. I'll still be here when you get back, guys. I'm not too worried about it. We've been down this road before. But one of the hardest strategies for me to suggest to these excited returning players is that spreading out is sometimes really the option. Perhaps the most obvious one of these, Asmodan is a great point in this, because you're going to give more stacks. You're going to often empower an actual ability that if he hits 2 heroes at a time is going to do something bonus. But look at Medivh. If we are all on the exact same straight line, we are all ending up inside the time stop. And then we're dead. So we all have to stand on these like unique angles. You got to be over there. I'm over here. Let's, we'll just spread it out. And that's just hard to do when you're just having fun. So I think Asmodan, as well as the whole you need a support who knows what they're doing situation, it's just going to cause issues with all these new players again.
Yeah, totally.
But let's talk about something we do understand that is good. And that is Arthas, my man. Arthas is the hotness. Arthas is heading upward. He is a bulwark stomping down the lane with a mighty mighty 40% slow at his back. And it is incredible. And it feels great.
Yeah. This is where saying it's all relative goes out the window because of that percent based slow. Yes, if he doesn't have that slow activated, it's all relative. Arthas is walking up to you 10% faster, but you can run away 10% faster as well. But if that slow is activated, if you get hit by it, that 40%, the effect it's going to have on your now cumulatively faster movement speed is going to be even greater.
I've also been getting a little cute with Rune Tap. Because of the movement speed, I can now stay connected to targets more often, land my auto attacks more often, and Rune Tap may actually, if you don't kill me out there because you're high league and you know that I have to be taking Icebound Fortitude, and I do it in my real games, but I'm excited about Rune Tap, and there's a chance it might be good at some point in the future.
I am not here preaching that this is the right way to go, but I have been flirting with Seismic Slam build Sonya, and so far it's feeling very good.
And she's up as well.
For similar reasons. Although I had some rough games, but it was more of a comp thing. I believe I'm having to remember that Sonya has some comps she just does not perform well against. But like early attempts from me to try out the Seismic Slam build, that was honestly running away with the win rate before these changes. It's the lowest pick a lot of the times, especially the kind of make or break for this build, which is Shattered Ground at level 4. Of the stats available to us, Shattered Ground is the least popular pick at level 4, but its win rate is skewed very, very positive compared to Shot of Fury or Hurricane. And I've been giving it a shot because, yeah, if I can just stay on top of my target without having a whirlwind or whatever, why not? Why not give Seismic Slam a try? And when you go Shattered Ground, your damage output feels really good. And that certainly has been my anecdotal experience for the most part. It's not like Runaway. This isn't like my Rexar epiphany where it was just an insane, disgusting win streak, but it feels good. And it's something I want to spend some time with.
Giant Slammer at level 16 would also be empowered. This is your Seismic Slam, and your basic attacks deal 1.25 of the target's maximum health. If you're auto attacking more, and in general, assassins in the melee department and bruisers seem to be benefiting from this. Ragnaros was already on his way up, and we are seeing him continue alongside Malthael to get there. I think Ragnaros too, if you, that's my project right now, is Ragnaros. If you're looking for a project hero, I would highly suggest it. His ability to give movement speed to the area around him, as well as all the clog we are facing. Now, if you have an Alexstrasza and the whole enemy team goes, we can dive her now, and no matter what angle they come from, they're all going to group up. And things like Rag are amazing if rotates are more powerful and you're able to counter a good rotate with a lava wave. There's just a lot of good in a Rag right now, which is really funny because Braxis, Volskaya, some of his best maps are kind of off the rotation. So he's just literally hot.
Yeah. Which reminds me, I haven't taken a look. How's Thrall faring?
Thrall's okay.
He's doing okay? Yeah, okay. I figured he would have seen a similar bump. And
0.6. He's up. The problem with Thrall was that your moment of highest connection was your Wind Fury anyway, which you had movement speed for. So you do close in on it faster. Thrall's big problem right now is that his lane clear kind of sucks in comparison to others. And while you might safely complete your stacks of Echo of Elements, while you might never die in that lane, Malthael's going to outpush you, get damage in your walls. Those walls go down. The Punisher no longer has walls, so you can't block off the enemy team, and Thrall leaks away a little bit. Earthquake's still amazing. Sunder's still amazing. I was playing Thrall today in Storm League, and it felt great, and I love him in the solo lane. He's my preferred solo lane, but he can't really do camps. We're seeing Rayners take camps nonstop nowadays, and that's not just like, what the heck's wrong with my quick match Rayner? Like, Rayners have learned how to do camps, and if they haven't, they know they've seen people do camps, so all the Rayners are doing camps right now. It's kind of weird.
I had one of those at a game last night. They did not know how to do it.
It's bizarre.
They ended
doing it.
Well, this one didn't die, thank God, but ended every fight with like 5 health and then would die in the bushes shortly after.
But it can be done. And when I see them do it, it's amazing. And thank you, Rainer, for taking that job on. That means Brightwing no longer has to do bribes. She can do other things. And the exchange happens. And I'm really happy that you have this ability, but it is weird.
I would rather Brightwing go bribe.
No?
Yeah, please. I'd rather health exist at the end of the merc taking.
It's also because Rainer, because of his range, because of his heal, is really solid in the solo lane, whereas Malthael can get ganked and won't stay as far back. So I'd rather Malthael go and do the camp and you, Rainer, main the lane. But whatever. More people doing camps is never an issue. There's just a lot of people learning how to do it on these new characters.
Yeah.
In their new jobs.
All right. Last hero on my list where I haven't taken the time to swap to them, but this is it. This is the next hero I'm going to work on with these changes. And it's Zool. Because Zool has been faring well with these changes, and I don't know why it wasn't the immediate first thing I thought of, but the second I realized that roots are just the best in this movement meta, a non-skill shot root, just a point and click. That's great. That's some gourmet stuff. That's exactly what I'm looking for in this game right now.
And we've been talking about how everyone's grouping up because their movement speed is bringing them together faster. And guess what? You got a big old blue build sitting right there for you. Basically pick every talent that is blue, realize how it stacks by reading slows and whatnot and hitting multiple heroes, and you're going to have yourself a good time.
At some point in the future, Kyle, we're going to have a discussion about how I haven't wanted to play a hero that takes a pick away from my enemies in a while. And I think it's becoming an issue.
That's not something that's a really interesting conversation. And I know right before we do the season changeover, we head out of preseason, we're going to sit down and we're going to do a big what happened. We're going to talk about the December XP update. We're going to talk about radii, and we're going to talk about this movement speed all in one big overarching conversation. So you know exactly what the meta is. And thank goodness we're not trying to have that conversation today, because nobody knows.
No, it's still too in flux.
Johanna.
You're just first picking Johanna. Okay.
Every game, yeah, because people are like, yes, please. We know there will be auto attacks because Vala and Zul'jin and all these auto attackers are in. Ragnaros, Thrall, Mayhem are all on their way up, and they have moments of high exchange Malthael. If you want to blind those characters, you don't blind the auto attack part. You blind the, I'm powering my Q, I'm coming in. This, when it misses, is missed entirely. An Umbral Bind from Mayhem, if you blind that, no chains at all, and nothing happens. No marks from Malthael. So blinds are in for the moment. Will we stay here? And why the heck am I first picking Johanna every game? Everyone loves her. She's winning, but it's just because it's a safety pick because we don't know what the heck is going on. Maybe you can Abath her. Everything else just fell apart this week. No false stats, no Zeratul, though he's still getting bans. No Annas anymore because she gets dove too fast and reduces her own movement speed unless you press that button.
Whereas I am seeing plenty of Anna and still being rather effective.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Or getting banned. I still saw some Anna bans. But it's certainly in flux for sure, man. It's really interesting. But yeah, at some point we need to have that conversation because I don't think Rexar was ever a contested pick. But
no.
Yeah. Before we kind of end the overall movement talk, I mean, we've had so many folks writing in on the Discord. There's also like a lot of discussion in the community. I mean, where has the community landed on this? Because there was a lot of concern last week when this patch went live.
Most people have accepted it, and most people don't want to look backwards. If you look at my replays on YouTube from last week, they do look a little slow, and your brain adapted faster than you think it could, though I will admit that I definitely had a little bit of adrenaline and just nerves watching that very first game I played commence. It is kind of freaky, and it's easier to lose track of yourself. For the most part, though, Reddit and the community there is in agreement that casting speeds need to be increased, and that's really where they've landed. They don't seem to have the biggest issue with maybe attack ranges, with ability ranges, as much as they just have with the way particular spells work. So you go to the community at large right now and you say, what do you think of Hungering Arrow? you'll get a 50-50 answer, but in general, it lands somewhere in the range of get good. Just land your skill shots. If you miss your skill shots, Vovala's better anyway. Maybe you should go auto attack build because you suck at that anyway. Like if people will find a way to have that conversation. Jaina's fine. The problem is with things and their landing speed, their leash range, and their cast range. So Blizzard's not that bad on Jaina. Comes down pretty quick. Asmodan has a bit of a load up. Asmodans are sad that you might have time and speed to walk out of it now. The real offender here is maybe Chromie's Dragon Breath, which just telegraphs where it's going to go and isn't going any faster. And you now can walk faster than the 3 hits would keep up with you.
Gotcha. This is where I'm having to spend the most time retraining my brain because what has stuck with me as the biggest bummer personally is that it appears retreating directly backwards is now the safest way to not get hit by things.
That is true.
I have wasted so many bear charges and birds, so many Qs and Ws on my Rexar on slightly, even if it's not a full retreat, just anyone walking backwards for any amount of time that previously would have hit. And it bothers me as the grumpy old man on their front porch because the correct answers used to always be strafe, wiggle, don't just run backwards. But now the easiest, most natural decision in most cases is now just an auto dodge of most abilities.
I would say that is very true. However, the subtlety is actually being picked up by a certain class now, and that's tank. And that's where I'm okay with this. Tanks, because of the way a route works, if your whole team completely falls apart and you are the tank and you run along the same path as the rest of your team, you are basically saying, this is the pile of people you need to murder and catch up to. And in order to avoid that situation with everyone able to book after your team faster, particularly if they're turning around, they're throwing thunder shocks back, they're shooting a hungering arrow, whatever it is that is causing them to move slower, the enemy team's going to catch up that much faster. And it's the job of the tank to stick around that extra moment and say, I will dwarf toss myself out once the CCs fade. I will maybe go falling sword on Johanna so I can get out. But everyone else get out, and I'm going to use a different angle. And in fact, I'm seeing more tanks than in my own play. I'm getting out the back more often, doing a bunch of delaying and then pushing through the back line and making my escape through the woods. And I think that's really interesting.
Yeah. I'm not here saying that it is inherently bad. I'm talking a little bit about just my emotional reaction of, that's lame. Then you didn't take any thought. You just walked backwards and now you have gained value as a result. When in reality, it's just, I need to stop using abilities when they're moving backwards because they're more often than not going to miss, especially with my favorite hero at the moment.
And those all have echoes through your entire game. You run out of mana, and now you don't make the next fight. You've hearthed when you didn't have to. You didn't get the orb because you missed, and you lost the game because you cast charge twice more than you needed to.
Right. But on the flip side, I am feeling much more rewarded for picking a fight when I notice that they have decided to move toward us when they shouldn't have. And recognizing that on a hero like Kerrigan or even Rexar, is yielding much better results. It is a double-edged sword, though, because the number one thing that my teammates are doing that is causing me to tilt is turning around into a fight that they have no business turning back around on and instantly dying.
So. Returning players, I say.
Boy, this game just feels like a razor's edge right now, more than it ever has. And if you ask me about every hour, I'll have a different answer for you as to how I feel about this change.
I know that there are a lot of people who don't agree with my positive acceptance of this patch. And I know so much of that is dependent on seeing my friends just loving this game and knowing that in the back of my head that this change brought them back. But tanking is a blast. And when Vala melees me and steps sideways to dodge my blind, I know exactly why everybody died and it's my fault. And that's fascinating. And my stuns, all my CCs, have so much more meaning than they previously did. But I can see as a damage player, if I was Kel'Thuzad, I'd be pissed. You know, don't mess with my meta that I was winning at. You darn ruined it. I got a buff to the type of characters I am currently playing.
Fair.
Let's talk about a couple of these. We got Twilight Dream, you can now walk out of during the load time. Entangling Roots, so pretty big nerf to Malfurion in general here. Orphea Dread, as that has a, hey, guess where the snake's going? Oh, it's going to pop here. Ah, did you get hit? Kind of moment. Gul'dan's Drain Life, anything that leashes, and this really falls to Leoric's Drain Hope. If there is a max range that you can escape something from, you will get to that max range faster while they are immobile or slowed.
That being said, on the flip side, Gul'dan's Corruption feels somehow even more impactful because of the guaranteed damage of the damage over time in a meta where people are making near escapes more often feels great.
It is more likely to hit the 3 stacks. Yes, our movement speed does now match Corruption better.
I wasn't even talking about, wow, I didn't even talk about that. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Yeah, if you pick the wrong angle, your delay in adjusting your trajectory, it punishes you worse now. Wow, that's crazy. I didn't think about that. I was just like, if you can land a dot, it's just good because that's damage that can finish the job after they just narrowly escape into the woods. That Kyle tank,
right now.
that Kyle tank that barely makes it out with that sliver of life. Does that Kyle tank have a dot on it? That's a dead Kyle tank.
Yeah.
I shouldn't sound that excited about killing you.
No. Tanks are exciting to kill. That's why we try to bust them. When tank buster metas are in, that's why I'm doing Tychus and stuff like that. It's a blast.
Dude, there was a banging Tychus in a game we lost yesterday, but it wasn't the Tychus's fault. The Tychus was killer. I was just watching these damage numbers like, what is happening? Oh, okay. All right. I figured in this meta, his horrible attack range was going to be a problem, but this Tychus didn't seem to care.
I think attack ranges matter less all of a sudden. Purely anecdotal, but I think Cassia is going to be great. Cassia in general has a really high win rate in bronze, by the way. Anyone in bronze out there looking to get a project going, Cassia is amazing and has some really powerful combos. You can do a full 3,500 damage with a full combo on Cassia.
Yeah. Yep. Shall we take a peek at some of our patron Discord comments? Because there were some fun little anecdotes in there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so Cheesus wrote in and said, loving the movement speed, but I play tank supports and bruisers primarily. Poor mages. Which is not as true as we thought it was going to be. Jaina is fine, really hasn't moved much at all. Kael'thas has actually moved up a bit. Poor Li Mings and Chromies.
Yeah, I mean, Li Ming didn't suffer as much as we would think in stats. She's currently down 0.8%. Mephisto, however, is looking awful. And Orphea has suffered perhaps the most alongside Junkrat.
Yeah. I was looking up, I think it was Infernal Shrines just last night, though, and Junkrat's still doing just fine there.
Sure, well, hopefully you have your map-specific picks.
Yeah, I think that's safe. Zach wrote in and said, I had actually played a couple of games this week before listening to the cast, and everything felt off. Also, the patch notes didn't show up when I logged in, and I always read them. The game felt too fast and weird, so I thought it was because it was 4:30 in the morning and I was tired. Listened to the show and thought, okay, I'll give it a try because Kyle was so pumped. To this now I say, nope, I am now considering leaving the game over this change. Hooray for them liking it internally, but feels awful for most of the heroes I play. Hoping it gets better, but being almost 40, these changes are hard to adjust to. And I feel that. I'm still feeling that. I'm really having trouble adjusting to landing abilities on the retreat.
Interesting. We did receive quite a few notes based on age from our listeners.
Yeah, Cricket wrote in and said something very similar.
And I do wonder about that. I mean, personally, I would like to not believe it because I'm going to beat all these whippersnappers' butts the older I get. But I've also got muscle memory from when I was 14 out of my back in MOBAs.
Yeah, this is why this change is so fascinating to me, dude. I don't know, it's very easy. And typically you notice a trend an agreed upon trend within the community whenever changes are made, really in any type of game. It's pretty easy to go into a YouTube comment section or the forums or the subreddit or whatever, what have you, wherever you like to go get your community conversation on and pretty rapidly figure out at least what the vocal majority thinks is the yay or nay, right? But this, there's a pretty strong back and forth. There's a lot of people who like it and a lot of people that don't. And even someone where I do feel I was negatively impacted rather directly by these changes, I'm not ready to call it bad, and I'm not ready to call it good. I am ready to call it fascinating. It's such a bizarre change in that, in the way that it has affected the game, and whether or not it is objectively good or bad, it is in a way irrelevant. It's something that Blizzard brings up pretty often when they talk about wanting feedback from the community. And I don't hear it as much from the Heroes team as I do from Hearthstone, but the Hearthstone team in the past multiple times has brought up that feeling is an important factor to consider with balance changes that they make to the game. Whether or not a certain card is actually degenerative, is played too much, does have a win rate that is significantly above everything else in the game, whether that is true or not. Yes, those are factors they look at, but they also factor in if it's a feel good or a feel bad situation. And we have seen Heroes make changes to the game in that regards. Tracer had changes made to her. Genji has had changes made to him, specifically for dev noted reasons for the way it feels to play against these heroes. And I think this movement speed change having what looks to be pretty wide-reaching effects on entire types of player archetypes in this game is really interesting. Because, again, like I kind of got into last week, if that was the team's intention, then they succeeded. They didn't say it was. They haven't said that. They haven't said that, we were targeting skill shot mages that broadcast their the abilities that land where they land. But I don't know. This is very long-winded, and I feel I have failed at making my point. But I find it this is one of the most interesting things out there, and I think it's a really cool thing to sit around and discuss. And I'm really curious to hear the devs' comments on how they feel this change has went, because I know that they care if there are players out there that aren't tanks that feel this came for their fun.
They use the word snappier, and that does match the more casual player base who wants this game to be a nonstop brawl and wants to defend that top lane instead of trading in the bottom, because defending is more fun and feels like the right thing to do, even though strategically we could get a different advantage. Mm-hmm. Snappier is fulfilling their desires for this game. I still want to hear from the dev team throughout all this what their goal was with Artanis Space Laser and Ravenous Spirit. I picked Ravenous Spirit this week, by the way, because we had a Tyrael dive with his charge, with his stun. We had to delete very, very quickly because the power of the enemy support. So he would dive leaping, I would throw a spirit on top of it. I turned that spirit off right after. Tyrael outranged me. There was no reason a Gargantuan would have gotten us that kill, and Tyrael needed aid in the back line. But I turned it off as soon as it was done, because otherwise people are just going to run away from it faster than I could deal damage. Is that intended? Did I just combo a heroic ability that's never been comboed before because it's being used as a team wipe ability in solo play? We need to hear if that is the intention, and then we can all move on. But I do have sympathy for people who just feel like reaction times are becoming name of the game. I don't particularly enjoy rhythm games. DDR is fun, but it's insanity. And it's about actually moving your feet, and the amount of practice that takes is rather nuts. And I don't have enough quarters in my life. And that thing's like $1.50 too. Like,
I mean, you get your own pad, but the actual like hard ones that are as good as the ones that are in the arcades are very expensive, and the rollout mats, they're just not nearly as fun.
Right. Whereas I can pick an easy mode of DDR and feel pretty successful with myself. So are they just stealing money from me by making the game as hard as it's bad?
Do you want me to talk about Rock Band? Because I feel like you want me to talk about one of my favorite games of all time, Rock Band.
Okay, go for it.
I just wanted to say it's one of my favorite games of all time, and I will play drums for anyone at a Rock Band party. Love it. Yeah. So, I don't know. I feel like we usually have the answers, Kyle. I feel like we can usually come on this show and say, this is what the opinion is. This is what our opinion is. Draft your own decisions. But dude, I'm waffling 24/7 on this. I have different opinions on a fairly regular basis. I will say overall, I feel way better about the changes today than I did when we recorded our episode last week.
That's good. And it does take some work. In fact, Blackhelm, his comment here is that I like my stuns and slows when I'm tanking, and they're even more useful now alongside mages, which is exactly what I was just talking about. Combos have become more important again. Maybe we need a way for the game to say, hey, combos, you did it.
Maybe they do. I don't know. Hey, that was like one thing I can point to on Anthem and say they did that right.
They did do that
They
right.
yelled combos at us.
Marvel Ultimate Alliance did it really well back in the day. It was kind of like a Gauntlet Legends Diablo-y kind of game.
Yeah. I had a roommate who was into that. I personally wasn't a big fan, but yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
So what if we took that? What if we did that? Would that just make everything feel better? You know, we have crits. People love crits. They feel good. They look good. They're spiky. What if when you punished Johanna Q'd someone inside of a blizzard, it was like combo slow, and it didn't mean nothing, but you cast a lockdown while someone was in an AoE.
I mean, it's already showing you larger numbers when you're taking advantage of like more damage to slow targets, right?
Yeah, those are crits.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how you would do this. This would be something I'd love to talk to a dev about. Like, is that something that would be even remotely possible? Do you feel that a game really needs it? I don't know. It'd be fun for sure.
It's not where I'd put my effort. My effort, if we talk to a dev, would still be saying, you need to combo breaker that XP. You know, when you feed a lane of XP into enemy towers, no one's there to soak it. That needs to be like denied, minus XP, blah. And you'd be like, oh my God, I'm amazing. I just reduced the enemy's level by doing this perfect action.
Yeah. Deribo, friend of the show, wrote in and said, still trying to figure out how the 10% will impact double soaking. I need more time to get a feel for it, but are more heroes now viable as double soakers? Is it too risky to double soak now that people can rotate on you as a team and now miss less? Or is double soaking too niche and will have no real impact? I don't know. My gut reaction is that it's less stressful than it used to be. That it's still very much possible, but less stressful because if you don't rotate perfectly, it's okay because you move across the map slightly faster. As long as, I don't know, maybe you're breaking even because you are a little more stressed out now watching out for those rotations.
I think the main benefit of it is that you don't have to mount to feel good about a rotation. In the past, if you were Tomb of the Spider Queen and you were a little behind on the rotation, let's say you're doing a 4-man rotate, maybe it's your first one, you would mount up, run. Oh, you guys knew what you were doing. Oh, lane's done. Dismount. Oh, mount. Oh, okay. And then you try to catch up again and you just back and forth and you feel useless. Now people just walk. My Johanna walks from mid to top. I don't mount up because there's very little reason to. My movement speed supplies with how the lanes come together every 90 seconds all I need.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm really fixated on his question now of, are more heroes now viable as double soakers? And I think the answer is yes. Because yes, you can be rotated on faster now, but that's something we should learn with time.
Yeah.
We should have already been keeping an eye on the minimap. You should be paying attention to it even more now. It's now more important than it's ever been. And once you get that in mind, this should open up the doors a little bit more for a few more heroes.
Completely unrelated, but I just figured out what's wrong with Mephisto. It's the same thing with Alexstrasza. You teleport, you leave the ghost behind, everyone goes, get on the ghost, and they all run in on your ghost.
Yeah, so, they're getting to the ghost faster.
Yeah. Problem solved there.
And your ghost isn't moving. Me. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. How would you... it almost feels like it needs like 10% more range.
It could be aided by that. I certainly think Leoric... you're getting a lot of health out of Drain Life on Gul'dan. I don't know about that. He's pretty hardy. But
certain abilities don't feel as bad as others. Like, I don't think the Azmodan orb change is as bad as we initially thought. Because I think, again, it's relative. If this is somewhere where maybe this is better on the retreat for the same reason that you now are lined up with the 3 hits of Gul'dan. If the Azmodan purposely targets it behind you because he sees you about to retreat, you're punished more for not adjusting your angle faster.
I have very little sympathy for Li Mings and Azmodans. And that is because they are tricksy and they have very cheap abilities that will allow them to change the pace of their casting. If Li Ming and Azmodan get help, I call for things like Triumvirate to be removed from the game. This is if Arcane Orb hits an enemy here after traveling at least 50% of its base range, the cooldown is reduced by 5 seconds. If you are an enemy player and you see an orb fly, you have an 8-second window to engage Li Ming during her low damage time period. And I constantly see one of your biggest problems with lots of silvers and bronze is that they always go, oh, Li Ming hit me. Oh, guys, back line. And they go wandering in the back line. They're like, somebody heal me. And they spend 8 seconds being dramatic. I'm going to be a little strong here, but this is what you need to learn. They're being dramatic back there, being like, oh, I was hit by an orb. Oh, it hurts so bad. Okay, am I healed up? Thank you. And it's been 8 seconds. They go back in, another orb hits. They go, oh, and fall back to the back line again. Triumvirate, so your goal there is to say, oh, orb, I'm safe for the next 8 seconds. Let's make an engage. But Triumvirate takes that down to 3 seconds and ruins that entire philosophy. And Azmodan has one called Bombardment that if it hits 2 heroes, I believe this is auto attack. There's one of these in here that does something with cooldown reductions if he hits more than 2. Now he gets mana back. That's
I don't know off the top of my head.
Gluttony. After gaining 200 stacks of Annihilation, each enemy hit by Globe of Annihilation reduces its cooldown by 0.25 seconds, double against heroes. So you are programming your early game to have a window, and as the game goes on, that window changes. That makes it very hard to tank for. And what are you complaining about? Now, gleaming magic missiles, sure. I have heard the cheeky response of like, dude, you got Fireflies, Li Ming, level 16, drastically increased the missile speed, and cooldown is reduced by 1 second, mana cost is reduced. Yeah, that's real cheeky, but you got to get all the way to 16 in order to hit your magic missiles. That's not fair.
That's a long chunk of the game spent of missing your magic missiles.
Yes.
Yeah. That's something I could see getting moved up to a much earlier talent in a future update. That would be an interesting way to kind of play that.
I'm all for that.
Yeah. Then we've got a question from the Patron Discord, which comes from Mudge, who says, everyone has been talking about how strong auto attack is going to become with the 10% change. But in particular, I think Lunara may have her day in the sun. The additional 10% on her is incredibly noticeable. It makes her twice as agile in a team fight. Her move speed has gotten so quick that she runs out of a Garrosh Q follow-up to a throw before it impacts. I watched this happen several times in a Stormlight game of mine. It really drove home how quick she has become. I know Lunara has always been a niche character, but will this push her over the edge? And I think the answer is an overwhelming yes. I've seen Lunara's just decimate since this change went live last week. And again, it comes down to so many things. Everything that Mudge mentioned here are just about how the movement speed change has made Lunara feel amazing. But all of my points about how damage over time feels better than it ever has.
Lunar also has a lot of double rotate power right now with Nature's Calling at 4, dealing 125% bonus to non-heroes. That includes structures. And then Thornwood Vine. So you can just go one Vine, knock out the entire lane, leap away. Poison damage does have to get the last hit, so don't leap fully away. And then you're on the rotate. You're pressuring that next tower. Of all the quick match, this is a quick match laner kind of characters, I see Lunara being one of the most frustrating.
Yes, absolutely. Really really don't look forward to getting matched up against the Lunara right now. Although I got to say, Zul'jins that are on top of their stutter stepping, they scare me right now, dude. Terrifying me. One of the major things that softened me to this change, though, was a game that I played with you last week on Raynor, where I had to work a lot harder to manage my stutter stepping and my positioning. But when I was on point, when I was really dialed in, it felt so good.
Oh, we were having a blast that game in particular because you stacked your level 1 ace in the hole with my Arthas. So I was marching them down, keeping them slowed at 40%, and you right-clicked them for 15% bonus damage.
I think that might be a duo for us if you and I start stormlinging on the regular.
Definitely, yeah.
Sounds good. I like it. I like it a lot. So, one more thing just to mention before we kind of move out of our news, topical conversations, which is that Heroes of the Storm is up 15% on Twitch right now.
Yeah, using Twitch statistics and analysis sites, you can see a pretty interesting and steady climb over the last week and a half for Heroes of the Storm. Watch time is up 8%. The max viewers are up by 46%. And in general, this is adding up to 15% higher location for Heroes of the Storm on Twitch. And, toot toot and all that. And maybe it doesn't really matter, but there's a lot of people curious about the game. There's a lot of returning players we know are happening in our own circles. And I would say movement speed, but also I think this has a lot to do with auto chess.
Explain yourself.
I fully believe that people played a nice half-hour game of auto chess, said, MOBAs. I remember MOBAs. How fun. Let me go try Dota. Oh, that was an hour, 15 minutes. Well, let me try. Oh, League was an hour and 15 minutes. What matches, what game out there is around the time of a auto chess game?
I would argue it's actually significantly shorter 9 times out of 10 than an auto chess game, but yeah.
That's true. Depending how deep you get, right? Like, or you could just quit a half an hour because you know who's going to win, whether it's you or...
Although it probably lines up more with teamfight tactics. But anyway, neither here nor there. Okay, makes sense. Scott Johnson went on a similar mind rant on the instance last week where I was not... where he was saying, oh yeah, people probably just want to know where these characters came from. I'm like, the answer is Warcraft 3, Scott, not Dota. But
there is a chance that that's where Blizzard's auto chess is Warcraft 3 Reforged. It would make sense that a team might be done. They might have time to screw around, show off what their tool can do, and I wouldn't be surprised if that came out with some new maps.
That would be interesting. That would be very interesting.
Remember all those weird ones like, what was it, Iron Chef? That the StarCraft team finished up the campaign and had like 3 weeks to put together as many wacky use map settings as they could.
Yep, and I never played any of them.
They were all pretty cute. I mean, there's like Bejeweled, and they just showed off what the game could do.
I really do look at those though and see them as the precursor to StarCraft co-op, which is, I think, the crowning jewel of StarCraft 2. It is so much fun. It's really freaking good. Anyways, before we get into a little mini strategy that we prepared for you this week, we should thank the folks that pay us. Kyle, do you want to thank the folks that are paying us?
I love thanking them.
That's everyone supporting us over at patreon.com/ITN. If you're unfamiliar with Patreon, it's just an opt-in way to subscribe to the show. $1 an episode, $2 an episode, $5 an episode, whatever works for you. We greatly appreciate the support, and it allows us to pay guests like Not Paradox to come on the show. Allows us to do this for a living because this is what you and I do for a living, Kyle. On top of some other things, you do some coaching, I do freelance and whatnot. But primarily, we are content creators, and we wouldn't be able to do it without the Patreon. So to some of our newer patrons, thank you to Siri HS, thank you to Joshua S, and thank you to Istvan M. Thank you very, very much for supporting us, everyone. That's not the latest patrons. We thank everyone who subscribes over on patreon.com/ITN in the order that they signed up. So if you haven't heard your name yet, it's a coming. But Kyle, you wanted to talk about hidden abilities, which is a post by Scythic. And we'll talk about that right now.
Choose a talent.
Choose a talent.
Talent? That seems generous.
I have a PhD in PvP.
So you can go over to the Heroes of the Storm subreddit right now and take a look at this. In fact, we will have a link to it in the show notes, which you can always find at amove.tv/ITN. Just look for the episode 278 post. I forgot what number we were on there for a second. And it's there's some cool little tidbits in here. What were your takeaways? What kind of blew your mind?
Yeah, most of this post is about letting the devs know that there is a lot of hidden text, such as Arthas summons ghouls, and you can destroy them to heal for 267 health. Well, how much health does a ghoul have? They actually have above 1,000. Wouldn't that be nice to know? How many bolts does Johanna's level 20 shoot down? So you can get those resets. Let's pressure the devs a little bit to give us that information. But hidden amongst this post are a couple of little gems that you might not know about. In particular, we're going to talk about Alexstrasza and Vala. Alexstrasza's Cleansing Flame. This is her heroic that you're not taking at the moment because everybody loves the life exchange. Cleansing Flame, while cast in Dragon Queen, is instant. Normally, Alexstrasza does get down a little bit and then jump. And it takes a second and a half or a second 2.5 for her to cast that. While in Dragon Queen, however, boop, you're up in the air instantly.
Yeah, just instantly I am out of the fight.
Dragon Queen has some numbers of iframes, which means you're invincible. You just don't exist for a hot moment. I have once and only once, and I'm very proud of it, dodged a pyroblast, transforming into Dragon Queen. It is a team fight winning ability. And there's more to it. In fact, while you're in the air casting Cleansing Flame, your Dragon Queen duration is paused, but your other abilities cool down normally. If you remember many shows ago, we talked about Alexstrasza's strategy and that you only are going to get one Perseverance cast. This is your big circle, and you need to use it wisely. Well, if you combo this, cast it, get in the air, you just paused your Dragon Queen while letting your cooldowns tick, and you get 2 Perseverance during this, or preservation.
So it's maximum feel good.
Yeah.
The way that this all behaves. It does all the things that you would like it to do in the way that you would like them to do it. You get to pause your dragon, but you get all your abilities cooling down in the background. Like, that's the perfect scenario for how this behaves.
There are also a lot of auto attack Valas around right now, and they're all being a little hush hush about this particular gem, and it's pretty cool. So when you see your auto attack Valas, they often go strafe, and you're thinking to yourself, well, that's weird. Wouldn't you like to stun the enemy targets and then auto attack them with your totally sweet skills? Well, it seems that strafe has a similar aspect to Cleansing Flame. It pauses your stacks of hatred, and when it's over, it sets the duration to full. So if you don't have a target, let's say you are on Towers of Doom and you're fighting over the middle altar and you're in range and you're at 10 stacks and you walk on down there and no one's there. 10 seconds go, but wait, hold up. Right as the enemy team arrives, you don't have an attack for your auto target, so you go into strafe. And all of a sudden, that stack of hatred that was almost gone, those 10 stays. And strafe ends and bam, it bounces back to full duration, and you can go 15 seconds without an auto attack using this strategy.
That is amazing. I did not know this, and I've been playing a lot of Vala.
If you do the level 1 talent, you now have 20% movement speed for your entire strafe. You don't need to worry about that fading at any point during your strafe cast.
Dude, that's wild. That is absolutely wild. Now, this would be a lot of text to add to the tooltips.
Yes.
I don't know how you would handle this.
I would still love a button like they have in Diablo 4, which is an extended tooltip button. If I wish to read 5 paragraphs worth of text, I can press this button in Diablo and you can give it all to me.
Maybe they could do it outside of the game. Maybe you don't need to have an option for extended tooltips in the actual game itself so that when you hover over it, it covers up half your damn screen. But maybe when you're in the loading up process and you're hovering over abilities, it could give you the option to see more.
Sure, that's a great point, is you don't want to restrict viewer space if you do happen to even accidentally mouse yourself over strafe and it just goes on half your screen. You just die because you couldn't see anything because there was suddenly a textbook apparition. I think that we all want as much information as possible. So let's make 2 check boxes, one for out of game and one for in game, if you so desire.
Okay, I dig. I'm into
Because I
it.
certainly don't mind simple text, like just the ability does damage. Fine. I don't need to know more sometimes. I'm just learning.
Yeah. And there are more in here, but those 2 are very, very interesting. And you already kind of alluded to what's going on with Army of the Dead with Arthas. So you should definitely go and support Scythic's post here. Again, we have it linked in the show notes, which are always found at the bottom of each and every blog post for each and every episode of Into the Nexus. You can see exactly how we make the show. So with this in mind, let's bring it home with a sizable mailbag.
Darkness stopped calling.
Does anyone else hear that buzzing?
Hold on. Darkness just texted me.
You can send your emails to itncast@gmail.com. If you're a patron, make sure you attach your Discord to your Patreon account because congratulations, you're automatically added to the Into the Nexus patron Discord. Unpronounceable wrote in and asked, how do you decide when you're ready to bring a new hero into ranked?
You just ride the winds, man.
My gut reaction, and for the most part, this is my honest to God answer, is just when it feels right. It is a very personal, I think, decision. But if I had to add anything concrete to this, I would argue that if you play a hero enough, even in something that isn't a draft environment like Quick Match, you are going to notice patterns. And the patterns you are probably going to notice the quickest are heroes you really like playing with and heroes you really like playing against, and vice versa. For heroes you hate playing with and heroes you hate playing against. And once you accumulate a pretty good idea of what those heroes are, suddenly, you know what you just figured out? Where you want to pick this hero in a draft.
There are those heroes that you just need to eject from your mind because they're going to take too much work to maintain, and the chances of actually drafting them are incredibly low. And for me, that's Zeratul. 1 in 30 games, there is a solo tank Muradin, there is no bruiser, and the other 4 are all ranged squishy DPS. And I go, oh man, if only I was a good Zeratul. You know what? That game can be a loss if that's what happens to happen. The chances of me maintaining a Zeratul for 1 in 30 games just isn't feasible, isn't plausible. Otherwise, you're filling out things on your roster that you're going to use regularly, and those you can judge based on, honestly, quests is one of the biggest ones. Know exactly when you can finish your quest. If you can get it done by 4 minutes or by level 4, ideally right at 3 minutes in time for the objective, or even if you want to fart off a little bit in the nearby lane on Thrall to get a couple more hits as you finish it up for that 3 minute, 30 second, now already 30 seconds in objective on Infernal Shrines, that's fine too. But you need to be able to complete your level 1 quests first and foremost. Next, you need to be able to stack whatever it is you need to stack. In this case, Ancestral Wrath. Thrall's such a great example here. Once those are under your belt, it's all about experience and knowing what to cast when and who to cast it on, and that you won't get a good experience of in Storm League without Storm League. Quick Match isn't going to teach you right. The enemies you're facing aren't going to be as serious, or sometimes they're like over serious super main tracer that you'll never ever see in Storm League in the first place. So you gotta play in the real battlefield eventually.
Yeah. Kobe asks, I know neither of you guys are support mains, at least not currently, but I'd be interested to hear your thought process on drafting supports. I usually just draft right wing.
Right. I think the problem with a lot of support players or anybody who is not a support main is that you have maybe, let's be generous here, maybe 4 that you like.
Yeah,
and
I was before the 10% change. I was trying to get my Tyrande back. I hate her. I can't stand missing my lunar flares right now. Whereas before I was a god.
That's a very small skill shot.
Yeah, I
absolutely understand that.
She's dead to me. It's a dead hero as far as I'm concerned. So And before I was already struggling because I felt like I was working so much harder than I had to. And if my team wasn't capitalizing on how hard I was working, it just bummed me out. So I've been pretty much just sticking with Bright Wing. I have been getting the Stukov itch again, though, dude. Let me tell you.
Stukov's incredible.
Stukov's just looking great right now.
I think Meat Arm is amazing. Just the ability to attack for such a huge amount of damage. Genji dives you. No, you don't. You just smack him in the face. Tell him to get out of here. And even if he deflects, you give yourself one deflect to the face because it was one big auto attack. And nobody's the wiser that you did anything wrong. Yeah. Silences are amazing. Push is amazing for that stitches that gets in your face with bile. Those are my sort of decisions. Do I need to heal multiple people up a large amount? Stukov is my guy because I'm taking care of an entire team. Morales is my character when I know one backline person needs my help. One backline person is going to carry this entire game, or at least be the target of the enemy side. And Rhaegar is that for me if it's the tank. Ancestral healing saves tanks, ruins the enemy decision to burn them, while I'm still able to maintain slow and help the backline well enough. Whereas Morales, I would be jumping around too many targets and not able to keep up with the tank.
This shows how often I heal, but I completely forgot about Rhaegar. Rhaegar is always in my back pocket as a potential healer.
He's great. He operates on basic heroes mechanics, so you don't lose your ability to be good at Rhaegar. It's kind of the Raynor thing in a sense.
Raynor is the damage bicycle of Heroes of the Storm. Rhaegar is the healing bicycle of Heroes of the Storm. And Johanna is just the whatever you need her to be at any given time of Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah. That kitchen sink. I love playing Alexstrasza. I think Decker's really fun. Their win rate's not up right now. Lili's always solid, particularly if you're in lower league and you feel like your teammates aren't going to deliver damage. And that's where I do Lili. I say this entire team is too low, and Lili needs to bring it home with about 45,000. Like it's not going to break the records. Not Assassin Lili, but we need that contribution.
Yeah, you're not wrong, dude. You answer that better than I could. My answer is usually Rhaegar or Brightwing.
It really depends. The problem, the great thing about your question is that it does need to be answered. The problem is there are 4 other spots that aren't picking support. So when we do have to pick support, we just pick whatever we're best mechanically at, and it rarely has anything to do with the draft.
Which I think is healthy in the first place. And this is true of whatever you want to play. It doesn't matter what you're maining. I could be a bruiser main. I can only learn so many bruisers.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's healthy to specialize. So keep that in the back of your mind as well, Kobe. Yes, chat room, it does depend.
Yep, it sure does. But anything cute like that you can recognize is a really powerful thing for you because you will be focused in the game to come.
Is that a new Kyle emote that I wasn't aware of?
Yes, I do have an emote on my Twitch that is a
Is that an initial depends?
It depends.
No, I know the tombstone. I'm looking at Sneaky Bee's depends.
Oh, no, that's from T90. It depends. So that's not from my channel.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
But there are other people out there spreading the it depends word.
I dig. Crushinator says, I play a Protoss only roster and it works pretty well. Are there any other lore-based groups of heroes that you think make a well-rounded team? Orcs.
I mean, it's pretty easy to say Warcraft. Surely there's enough characters to make a good team there. Wait, so with Orcs, you are factoring in Rexar and Garrosh.
I am also factoring Johanna with her orc skin.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. We can actually type in Horde. Horde has ETC. Who's healing Horde? Rhaegar. Okay.
Rhaegar. Yeah, he's an orc. It doesn't even have to be Horde. It can just be orcs.
I've never brought this up. Thank you, dev team, for allowing me to type REH and REG and still bringing up Rhaegar. I really appreciate that.
Oh my God, I didn't know that was the case. That's really good because, dude, I don't suffer from dyslexia and I still make that mistake.
Yeah, no, that name is bogus and it looks backwards. Every time I look at it, I'm like, really? You went with the H first? Now you got Rhaegar. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it works. Orcs comes to mind. So what's a less obvious one? There's got to be elves, right? There's got to be enough elves. Again, Johanna brings it home because she's got a blood elf skin.
That's true. You can do night elves. It looks like that'd be Malfurion, Lunara, Maiev, Illidan, and Tyrande.
Lunara's technically not a night elf.
She is of the Night Elf faction, though. She was a Warcraft 3 unit of their side. Same with Brightwing, which isn't included in this. Whoa, you messed up. Oh, we found a hole. Brightwing's not included in the Night Elves faction on Here's the Storm.
Well, it might be because it's specifically Brightwing and not a fairy dragon.
Oh, maybe she's neutral or something like that. But all the same. Lunara, you know.
Because I do believe Brightwing shows up in World of Warcraft. I can't remember where. But... I mean, honestly, most of the druids in World of Warcraft are considered neutral if they're part of the Cenarian Circle. Now, obviously, Malfurion is not, but...
Yeah. I mean, it's not a horrible team.
Johanna does have a Night Elf Spellbreaker skin. You're right.
Yeah.
So even Johanna could be a Night Elf or a Blood Elf, depending on how you tint it.
Terran's looking pretty good. You got Blaze, you got Morales. Stukov is a bit of a stretch, but still there.
Still technically Terran, you know?
Raynor, Hammer, Nova, Tychus. There's plenty of options. So Terran's looking great thanks to Blaze.
I live in my Terran Marine skin on Rexar.
Yeah, that's a good one.
You got Murky with his Terran skin.
You could squeeze those in.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, you could probably stretch for Kerrigan in her ghost uniform.
Oh, you know, I found our first hole. Undead support. I guess we could count Stukov maybe, but...
Stretch.
It's Zerg, right? It's not undead, but did he die or did he just... Do you die at any point when you get infested? I guess not.
It was probably... I mean, Whitemane has a gothy looking skin. You could just argue that she's an undead on the Chinese server, so no bones are showing.
I'd be all for that. Damn, that'd be awesome.
How is there not an undead Whitemane?
Right,
oh my
just
god!
Take the witch skin you made and make it skeletal, and that'd be great.
No, I want classic Whitemane, but undead. Because how many times has she freaking been killed? How many times have we killed her in World of Warcraft, Kyle? I mean, she's true. A freaking 4 horsemen now. She's one of the 4 horsemen now.
Ooh, yeah, like give it a little bit of light to it, the joints, like it's being held together by light. Like,
yeah, I'm into it.
I'm for this.
Yeah, let's do it.
Or you could do, okay, wait, yeah, I'm going one step, because I love this motif, the broken mask, where you have the beautiful face, but it's like cracked. And underneath your porcelain is like evil, disease, what have you.
I was thinking like straight up, you know, early 2000s MCR emo, you know, just like mascara bleeding, like not quite Sylvanas, but pretty much Sylvanas.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, those are tears apparently that were burned to her face.
I think that's one of the cooler things that come out of BFA is not that great story.
So, of all BFA, of everything they've possibly come up with an entire expansion, you would say the best thing is that they justified Sylvanas'
I'd say it's the best thing. Is that it's one of the better things in new lore that's not all that interesting.
Okay. Jeez, that hurts.
I would argue Blansamdi is the best thing. He's amazing. Okay. Everything about him is the best. It should just be the Blansamdi expansion.
Did that, spoiler alert, but I don't care. Did that pay off? Did he do a thing? Did he raid? Did we raid him?
We raided King Rastakhan, and Blansamdi, the other boot still hasn't dropped.
Yeah.
With him or with Zul'jin. Or not Zul'jin, Vol'jin. Sorry.
Yeah. They haven't justified Vol'jin in a jar
that
yet?
Still hasn't come full circle.
Huh.
Everything that's interesting in this expansion, they are just taking forever and a day to come to make interesting or finish. I'm impatient and done, Kyle.
No, you should. I think you should. I think a game should come out and tell you a full story, and then whatever comes out should add to that completed story.
Yep. I'm kind of over it. The Ajara stuff is great, though. Oh my god, sunken Elven ruins. They made it for me. It's great. Love it. Melody writes in and says, I've been very slowly working on learning to play quick match rather than AI, but I'm realizing that I have had a hard time not being overly aggressive and overextending. As a result, I've been almost exclusively playing as Yrel because she can take a beating and jump out of a fight. Any tips or character recommendations for someone trying to learn to dial down their bloodlust to a more appropriate level? I would argue that you're probably in a better place than a lot of people who are making that jump, because I find newer players or players that are now new to playing against other actual human beings tend to be not aggressive enough. And then maybe, I don't think you're wrong, by the way. I would like to state that I think what you've landed on here is a pretty smart thing to do, because what you should be training yourself on your rel now is not needing to use your jump to leave a fight, because you made the correct decision on when to go in and stand your ground. But at least now you have a character and a toolkit that lets you make a mistake and not necessarily cost your team the game. That being said, Kyle, what do you think about Melody maybe just going and like slamming some Butcher or slamming some Kerrigan games? Like, get on a hero that can't really win without being aggressive. Like, learn how to really punish your enemies for stepping out of line.
I agree a lot, actually. And I think a lot of people find their joy in this game and find themselves to be better players when they get in on Illidan as opposed to Kael'thas. And it's an old philosophy from StarCraft, but you always want to lose with tons of money, because at the very least, your economy was functional. And if we think of that, your economy is aggression, damage numbers, being in the enemy's face, actually accomplishing things rather than hiding behind a wall. You can always pull that back. Amping it up is actually a harder thing to do. So I would say embrace that, have fun with it. And Muradin is a pretty big choice there, because you got your jump out and you have self-regeneration that you can go hide in the bush for. So you can maintain your aggression while you're by yourselves. If you're melee, your heals are going into other people. It's still kind of an aggressive space, but I really think you would enjoy, as Garrett said, Butcher or Illidan, Muradin. Just continue that throughput you currently have.
Yeah, I would say feed your bloodlust. That's the tip I would give, because there are, God, it wasn't when was it? It wasn't last night, because Duribo and I had some rough games last night, but I believe it was last week. Duribo and I were just playing and just wrecking, and I was just saying, man, this is why I love Heroes of the Storm, because no other game that I play lets me realize the terror in my enemies. Like, recognize the moment that I break their spirit and they are terrified of me. And that's such a cool feeling, and something that really only comes from games like this. And so if you kind of find your joy being aggressive, I say feed it, chase it, learn how to do it correctly. And just know that you're going to stumble along the way. You are any of those heroes you play. If you play an Illidan, if you play a Butcher, if you play a Kerrigan, I don't care, any of them. Any of these dive-based characters that want to lock on and finish a kill, you're going to make a wrong call, and that's okay. That's all right. And quick match is the place to do it. I know there's people who are going to get a little cranky on the quick match, but that's okay. That is what quick match is for, and also what the mute button's for.
Well said.
So go take a dive or two, and it's okay if they don't all pan out. I'm excited. I want to hear back from you, Melody. Tweet at us, either keep up in the Patron Discord. I want to know how this goes, if you take my advice, and how it goes for you, and which hero you landed on. So moving right along, Rackham says, not a question, but if you have an extra minute, could you throw out a quick shout out to the BS tournament that Not Paradox has been putting together? It goes on every Sunday in July. Had a ton of fun this past weekend, and of course we can. This is not the best link in the world, but it is in the show notes, and I will read it out, even though there's a lot of numbers and letters. Get ready, everybody. Head on over to challenge.com/letterg74EP6AE. Great podcast.
Perhaps you should go to twitch.tv/notparadoxtv and just find the links in there and check that live on Sundays.
Yeah, but you may want to follow along, find out what the standings are, see it, you maybe even get involved yourself. So go check it out.
It's a fun little tournament he's been putting together. It's called BS because it's bronze and silver. He's making his way through the various zones as well. Just did EU and then NA this last week. it is a great place to check out educational content. There's not a lot of it that's flowing around in real time right now. Most players have seen it all, and this is a good chance to check yourself if you are in bronze or silver and see what sort of improvements you could make. Or they, at the very least, just don't show up and be like, this looks like my quick match games. No, don't dismiss it as such. Dismiss it as a structured game and learn something new.
Yeah. Yeah. So go check it out. Anything not, I would just say anything Not Paradox does, support it. If he wants to start giving classes on how to make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, I think you should support it.
Yeah.
Love that man.
Can't wait to do something like that for April Fools.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, it was a bonsai meta, and he trimmed his bonsai trees.
Oh, yeah, dude, I remember that. That was great.
I totally love that he has bonsai trees because it really builds the lore of who I think Not Paradox is.
He's exactly who you think he is. He is as zen as he appears. He's one of the. I love Not Paradox. He's just one of the chillest dudes. So go support it. Lawless writes in and says, "How does Garrett really?" All right, I'll finish this. There's an actual question here. Lawless says, "How does Garrett really spell his name? Is it really 2 R's and 2 T's, or is it all one big conspiracy?" It's a big conspiracy. It's actually like 17 R's and 1 T.
There you go.
Yeah. Follow-up question. Coming back from a hiatus and having a hard time against Imperius, any good counter Imperius videos out there?
Ooh, videos in particular, huh? Sadly, there may not be any more Imperius videos. Imperius is now at the bottom of the barrel for solo lane, it seems, after the recent movement speed update, because he's missing his shots, and the rework on his talents that gave him team fight ability, but way less survivability and regen in the solo lane without a hero to hit.
He is really hurting right now. So if you are having a hard time against Imperius, just do damage to him. And dance away, obviously. Because much like you kind of talked about last week, Kyle, anyone you don't want on you as Imperius, there's a good chance they're going to be able to stay on you more than they were able to before.
Yep, Imperius is falling to the likes of Chen at the moment. He is not regenerating as much as Malthael nor Sonya, and his time in the sun seems to have come to a close. He has a 30% win rate against Rexar now. It's Ragnaros, just everybody.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I mean, I've always loved being paired off against an Imperius personally, and I like it even more now.
Yeah. He was a #1 for our past maybe 2 months before his update, which brought him a lot of personality. I don't begrudge the team for helping him have something beyond, or at least more interesting. But man, we don't need a tank buster melee in this meta right now.
No. I would expect him
right there.
He seems very high on the list of heroes that I would expect to see an adjustment to very soon in regards to the movement speed change.
Yeah.
But
I think, in all honesty, I think they need to go back to the drawing board on Imperius's Heaven Slam heroic, because that is such a part of who he is in Diablo, that to have it reliant on hitting an enemy here, Wrath of the Angiris, to reposition them slightly. Reposition them slightly is generous too. This is a tiny reposition in our new age of movement speed. And I think, like Falling Sword, he should just slam, just jump in the air and come back down, wherever it may be.
You want Imperius to be Kirby from Smash Brothers?
Yes. And I want him to do the sound.
Okay.
Listen, we're talking about the sword part, right? Like the sword up and down and the blast forward.
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not talking about, I don't want Imperius to be floating slightly off screen the entire damn time and then fall into a brick and then go back into the top of the screen until they can maybe hit another brick.
Somebody played Smash Brothers against Brian.
That's true. My old roommate. That's exactly what he would do.
That is exactly how he plays Smash Brothers. Always Kirby and always that.
All day long.
Yep, just turn into a brick all day long. You're about to hear his music when this show ends.
That's true. We all grew up a little bit.
And every time you listen to Angry Chicken, he also did the music for that. Anyways, thank you all for all of your questions. You helped us fill out an earlier in the week episode than usual. We really appreciate it. Keep the questions coming, though, because we burned through a lot this episode. So write in itncast@gmail.com. If you're a patron, you can always drop questions in the patron Discord. We love hearing from you all. And sometimes we'll even give you a short answer there, so you don't have to wait for it, but we'll still throw it on the show because there's other people out there that probably have the same question as you. So thanks for doing it. That's going to wrap it up for this episode. Kyle, you will be back for next week's episode. I, however, will be lounging under the sun, probably drinking a rum-based drink.
That is true.
I am very excited to get away with my family. It's going to be a good
Vacations
time.
Are important.
They are. I'm very glad that I am able to take one. So seriously, huge thanks to anyone who has ever supported what we do here. And if you are currently supporting it or want to support it, head on over to patreon.com/ITN, and we thank you for doing so. Also, extra special thanks to our producers, Declan H, Cheesy Bob, Chris K, and Robert M. Thank you so much for the generous support, everyone. You can pick up some Into the Nexus t-shirts over at shirts.amove.tv. All of the episodes, every single episode we've ever done, can be found at amove.tv/ITN or on the Amove YouTube, which is just youtube.com/AmoveTV. Go check it out. The show's Twitter is at ITNcast. But before we leave, Kyle, where can everybody find you when you're not doing this show?
You can find me over at KyleFergusson.com. 2 S's in Fergusson has links to everything I do, but still has a number of coaching spots available for bronze through gold players on Monday and Wednesday nights. Check those out if you're interested in receiving coaching for Heroes of the Storm. Those will be going away, as I will too at some unknown 8 weeks out date. Disappearing for 2 weeks, for reasons.
You will disappear on this show as well.
Yes, I will be gone. I think just for a week on this show in particular. But.
Hey, we're here to do whatever we need to. I'm sure I can get Paradox to fill in. We'll call in Mr. Jeff Ganata. You know, we'll figure it out. So,
awesome. We'll get those while they're available. KyleFergusson.com.
Yeah. Basically, like, help Kyle buy a stroller. What are you doing, all? Yeah. you get how often can you become significantly better at your favorite video game while also, helping stock the coffers with baby food?
The baby food's great, but my parents told me you probably shouldn't buy too many newborn outfits. They grow up fast. This was, of course, coming from my dad, who works at Disney World and has now sent me countless costumes from the various rides in the area. We've got Buzz Lightyear, Pirates. I've got a Captain America outfit. In fact, I have 2 Buzz Lightyears. The flow needs to stop at some point.
I know it doesn't, because now your clothes the costumes are just clothes. You just have a full baby wardrobe of awesome Disney licensed costumes. I don't know what you're complaining about. I need some Star Wars. We need some Star Wars in here. Where's the Darth Vader?
There we go.
Where's the Finn, the Poe, whoever? Do it. Get on it. Folks, I'm Garrett Art on Twitter. You can follow me on there. I would recommend following me on Instagram, which is something I basically never promote, and I may be pulling it up in the background because I always forget what it is. It's Gare, GARE_GW. For my final 2 initials, because when I go away, I tend to stay the hell off of Twitter because it is a dark cesspool from whence happiness never existed in the first place. But Instagram is where everyone is at least pretending to live their best lives. So when I go on vacation, especially to the Florida Keys like I am about to do, I tend to take a lot of pictures of the wild chickens while I'm eating some type of delicious fish-based meal and post it to that Instagram. So if you want to keep up with me while I'm soaking up some rays, which is also usually getting sunburnt as hell, follow me on Instagram, GARE_GW, GareGW. Go give me a follow on the grams, as nobody says.
Wow.
Or at least nobody should say. Other than that, everything else is at amove.tv. Just banked a brand new Angry Chicken. There are going to be episodes of Embrace the Spoilers going up on the old Embrace the Spoilers feed and the R2T2 feed, even while I am away, because we're spoiling Stranger Things and we may have banked the final episode already. I'll give you a little peek behind the podcast curtain there. But that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Into the Nexus. Thank you all so much for listening. I'm going to miss you next week, but don't worry. I'll see you in 2 weeks' time. But until then, good luck and have fun.
Take care. See you next week.